Good morning and welcome to Fieldwork. We've had some introductions with you over the last 2 weeks, especially on Funda, just in terms of getting to know the module outline, what the expectations are. So today I'm just going to introduce myself and talk a bit about workshops, because this is one of the assessments that you have to do. It's compulsory. So good morning, my name is Sarani Symington. I have communicated with most of you via emails and on Funda. So please just continue checking out Funda. I'll try and communicate as much as possible. But if there's anything that you don't know what's going on, or it's kind of a new strange environment you find yourselves in, don't hesitate to just send an email. But today the focus will be on workshops. Now you've seen in your module outline that you have to present at least one workshop and that you have to hand it in at the end of what you do in your fieldwork, and just check the dates for that and make sure that's in. So I quickly want to run through an example workshop presentation that I've set up for you. It's basically a mock presentation just so that you can see what should be included in all your presentations, and I will upload this presentation onto Funda for you, and it will also be available if you need it from me. So just quickly, what the presentation holds is basically what an introduction looks like. So you would have a time schedule when you do your presentation so that the people attending your presentation knows what happens. So you will set out the time. At 9 o'clock this happens, at 10 o'clock we have tea, at 11 o'clock we do this and this and that. And you will see on the example PowerPoint presentation exactly how you break down times, so that people know how long the presentation will be and what you will be covering when. And it's also always good to know there will be a break so they can relax about that. It's good to have an introduction activity as well, so plan something fun where people can introduce themselves. The slide I put up for you simply asks, what's your name and where do you come from? All over South Africa, people might be traveling and hanging around and being part of communities. So it's interesting to see in the audience that you speak to, who's there, where do they come from, what do they support, what are they passionate about, and just to get a sense of your audience. If you go on with the slideshow, you will see that you can communicate expectations. What are people expecting of you to cover in the workshop? And that can also guide you a bit as to what you focus on. My question to you is, what is a workshop? And you'll find content in this PowerPoint presentation on what a workshop is. It's not just a physical space where you mend and build and break down things. A workshop can also be an academical, educational space where you teach. Workshops usually are short, intensive, interactive. It's not something that you do a lecture in. It's something where you facilitate knowledge and people engage with you, and it's a communicative process. So when you do a workshop, make sure that you have enough activities that people can engage with. There's nothing worse than sitting in a boring lecture for 3 hours and not having any sense of anything going on or any contribution that you can give. So make short intervals, short presentations where people can respond to that. You will see in the PowerPoint presentation, I go into quite a lot of detail on what is expected in a workshop, how long is a workshop, and what should a workshop include. So please go through this PowerPoint and make sure that you familiarize yourself with the content. The other area I just quickly want to stop, and I don't want to take too long to explain workshops, is just what are your fears? Before preparing your workshop, what are you scared about? Now, in recent research, it shows that the number one phobia across the world is public speaking. So even worse than the fear of death, and that's quite interesting. So make sure you really ask yourself, what is your fears in terms of workshop? Is it speaking to the public? Then I have good news for you. When you do workshops, you usually only have groups between 6 and 12 people, and you try and keep it small. Exactly because of the fact that we want interaction, but also it's less daunting for you to speak into a small group than having a large audience when you start off presenting workshops. So when you start with your workshop, make sure it's with a small group, try and keep it intimate, and then that fear isn't as big. Other fears you might have is, how do I prepare? What do I say? Where do I get a topic? All of those things you can address with your supervisor, and they can guide and assist you with that We know this is your first workshop, so we are really here to help and happy to do so. Please make sure also that you have breaks in between. You can't let people sit for 3 hours. Attention spans usually between 20 and 40 minutes, so don't drag on for too long without taking a short body break, get up, go to the bathroom, or even a tea or coffee break if you have the facilities. The next thing I just quickly want to stop at, and I know you can read and you can go through this presentation yourself, but just there's a nice set out plan for how do I conduct a workshop, including things like planning, how to do an introduction, introducing yourself, when do you facilitate, when do you have a co-leader, when do you have participants in the workshop, how informal should the workshop be, what does time look like in terms of a workshop, and then also being consistent in your delivery and also making sure that your workshop is evaluated when you're done. This is very important. People need to give you feedback on how well you did in your workshop so that can firstly boost your confidence, but secondly also show you the areas where you can work so that the next workshop is even better. So make sure you do some evaluation. The rest of it I really feel is set out nicely in the PowerPoint, and you can really run through that and make sure that you just familiarize yourself with everything that you need to know about workshops. There are so many websites available on tips for making jokes in a workshop, tips for engaging your audience, tips for speaking, tips for presenting a nice PowerPoint presentation. How many words do I include? How many pictures do I include? What is the balance in there? So this is your responsibility to really go and look at how do I plan and prepare my workshop. And please feel free to ask your supervisor to check. I am more than willing for you to send me your PowerPoint and say, Sharani, am I on track with this? And to give you some feedback on that. If there are any other questions, concerns, or fears that you would like to talk through, please contact me. The last 5 minutes I want to take and just talk to you about the difference between the workshop and psychoeducation. You will see in your module outline the word psychoeducational workshops. Now, when we understand what a workshop is, we throw in another curveball and say it has to be psychoeducational. And what does that mean? You will see in this PowerPoint presentation there's a whole section on psychoeducation. But basically, in short, it's educating people on something psychological. And that's what the name says, psychoeducation. So whether you are educating people on self-esteem or educating children on bullying and the consequences thereof, that is psychoeducation. It's giving people information, educating them on something that has a psychological impact in their community. And because we're in the field of psychology, that's where we want you to pitch your workshop. So make sure your workshop is psychoeducational. If you struggle to find topics, just look around you. Look what's going on in the community and what the needs are. Is there a lot of bullying? Is there a lot of abuse? Is there maybe a lack of self-esteem or confidence? Maybe you're in a community where children are struggling with learning abilities and you can do some learning techniques and a learning workshop. That could also be a good idea. And think on areas where you can apply this within psychology. And I think that's it from me. If there are any other concluding thoughts, questions or concerns, as I said before, please email your supervisor. We know this is a new area and that you've never done this before, and that's why Nick and myself have made us available to you. So just send an email and all your questions will be answered. Thank you for listening to this quick introduction to workshops, and please go through the PowerPoint. Thank you.